Are we live? Oh, yes, boy, that was really loud, wasn't it? So we are live. So welcome. So before we proceed with the final round of these exciting speeches, I cannot wait to hear them. I would like to welcome our esteemed District Governor, Julie Brandel, to the podium for a few words.
Thank you. From its earliest days of Rotary, Rotarians were concerned with promoting high ethical standards in their professional lives. In 1932, the four-way test was created by Rotarian Herbert Taylor. This 24-word test for employees to follow guided all aspects of the business he created it for that was facing bankruptcy, and the survival of the company was credited to this simple philosophy. In 1943, this four-way test was adopted by Rotary. It has been translated into hundreds of languages around the world. With 1.4 million Rotarians around the world living the motto, service above self, this four-way test has stood the test of time. Each year at this time, Rotary clubs around the world hold four-way speech contests with four goals in mind: introduce Rotary and the four-way test, demonstrate and grow Rotary's commitment to youth, increase awareness of Rotary and Rotarian service among youth, parents, schools, and community, and recognize, encourage, and reward hard work and accomplishment among our youth. I want to thank all of these fabulous students today who prepared these amazing speeches. And I'd also like to thank their educators for their encouragement and commitment to these students, not only during this contest, but each and every non-ending day. If you are not teaching, you are caring, advising, and worrying about our children, and we are grateful. I'd also like to thank the parents for all that you are doing to raise responsible, successful, and compassionate young people in today's world. And finally, thank you to our mayor and fellow Rotarian, Rich Cole, and your team, of course, because how wonderful they are, and the Port Summit Rotary Club for your coordination and hosting of this amazing event today. And of course, to all of you Rotarians in the audience, all of you involved with the four-way speech contest today and at the club level, thank you all for being here. And let's go.
All right, let's get started. We're going to do our first speech. I'm going to say their name and their topic. If they want to start coming up to the front. Okay. Speech number one is going to be Maya Nayar. Her topic, developing countries' lack of education.
I hate the phrase glass half full. It implies that we live in a world in which everyone's glass is either half full or half empty, and it's up to each individual to decide which to choose. But realistically, that is not true. Because how could a person's glass be half full when they are forced to go days upon days with a glass fully empty? We live in a world where education is mandatory, and because of this, teenagers all across America curse this rule. But we also live in a world where millions of teenagers fall into a vicious cycle of living by the penny because they were not given the proper education, healthcare, or safety to escape the conditions that they were born into. And that is obviously unfair. By using the four-way test, ways can be developed to help these developing countries. To answer the first question, is it the truth? We need to understand American teenagers. And I know, if I'm going to complain about American teenagers, then I must be the one teenager in America who loves school. Now, while my parents like to say that I fake being sick, to which I would vehemently disagree, I must begrudgingly admit that I may have done so on one or two occasions. In all honesty, my biggest stress right now is what college I get into. Not if I get into college, but what specific college my parents get to spend the price of a house on. But for children living in developing countries, college is out of the question. Zara, a 15-year-old girl living in Bulk, was forced to stop attending school after attacks on her neighborhood began. And while we sat here complaining about having to go to school, Zara begged her parents to let her go back, insisting that she would change to a school outside of their neighborhood in order to keep attending school. Since then, she has given up resisting and is now being forced back into the patriarchal world that she was hoping to escape. And that is the devastating truth. The Rotary test explains that the truth of the issue must first be identified. And the truth of the issue is, as the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization writes, about 258 million children are out of school. That's 258 million children that will never escape the harsh environments that they were born into. Because once an individual is born into poverty, it's almost impossible to escape it. Therefore, we must answer the next question: is it fair? Now, to that, I can confidently say that while it would be fair to solve this issue for all developing countries, this discrimination is dramatically unfair when it comes to the gender bias. UNICEF USA writes that 129 million girls are not given an education. For little girls like Zara, an education was their one chance at escaping the society that they live in under the thumb of a man. In my mind, the ideology that women's main purpose in life to get married and have kids is completely outdated. But for little girls living in developing countries, this is their reality. It's hard for us to imagine, for us to even empathize, because for so many of us, their struggles are completely out of the realm of anything that could ever affect us. But for change to be made, we must try to imagine. We must try to empathize, because for us to let millions of children live uneducated would be selfish. By supporting a greater cause, one in which we promote the national education of children, we promote a fair world where everyone is given the same opportunities that we have been given, answering the second question of the four-way test. The third question, about whether solving this issue promotes goodwill, can be answered by famous Pakistani activist Malala Yousafzai. Malala's story is one that many of these children can relate to. She was born in Pakistan, but with a very supportive, forward-thinking father. Her father promised that his daughter would be given the same opportunities that any man would have been given. He enrolled her in school to support these efforts. But when Malala was only 11 years old, the Taliban established the rule that women would not be allowed in education. 4 years later, at the age of 15, Malala began to advocate for women's education despite the violence that she faced when she began to speak out. 2 years after she started her fight, she created the Malala Fund, a charity that allowed for every girl to create her own future. Acts of goodwill such as these, where one girl rose up against her oppressors, proves that to provide goodwill, we simply have to follow in Malala's footsteps. Now, we need thousands upon thousands of Malalas to even make a dent in an issue as far-reaching as this. It's a problem that one person cannot solve. However, we do have a tool that can easily reach the masses, a tool that answers the final question of the four-way test. Will it be beneficial to all concerned? That tool is the internet. With people like Sal Khan and Luis Von On, the creators of Khan Academy and Duolingo, education could be given to children in developing countries all around the world. By giving them access to the internet, education would be at their fingertips. That sort of independence to educate themselves is something that no one can take away from them. They have a craving for knowledge, and we have access to it. We could save them. Now, I cannot relate to Malala or Zara's stories. The struggles that they have had to endure are struggles that I wouldn't wish on anyone. The privileged teenager in me cannot even begin to imagine the pain that millions out there must have faced, seeing freedom well within reach and then watching it slip away. But it's people in positions like mine that can make the biggest change. By using the four-way test and listening to the voices of the underprivileged, we could support so many more that are facing issues like Malala or worse. Our world is full of violence that we let be an excuse for issues such as these. It is the voices that make it through that violence that must be heard. If we can fill their glasses, why shouldn't we? Thank you.
Okay, so last year I didn't know that I had to have talking points in between each of the speeches. So let's see, I talked about like my dog, my cat, I don't know what else I talked about. I think I talked about my family, which is quite entertaining at times. So this year I came more prepared. I'm thinking, okay, what can we talk about? Well, there's a lot of things we could talk about. So I figured, you know what, we're here as Rotarians, and there's a lot of people out there that don't know the history about Rotary. So I said, well, I'll do some research on myself, not on myself because that would be really boring, on Rotary, and I'll give you some little tidbits here while we wait. So, unfortunately though, however, Governor Julie stole some of my facts, so now I'm gonna really probably have to tell some stories about my family, but that's okay. All right, so what is Rotary International? Well, Rotary International is a global network of volunteer leaders dedicated to tackling the world's most humanitarian challenges. There are over 1.4 million members in more than 35,000 clubs across 200 countries and geographical areas. Now, I'm going to give you a little tidbits on some geographical areas. The most remote club is in Papati, Tahiti, which is in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, which that might not be a bad one to be joining. The southernmost club is in Marambro in the Antarctica, okay? The most northern club is Barrow, Alaska, which is above the Arctic Circle. The highest club is El Aguila in Argentina, and it's 16,010 feet above sea level. The lowest is in El Centro, California, which is 40 feet below sea level. So just little tidbits if you're ever on Jeopardy, to let you know. Let's see. At the core, Rotary is committed to promoting peace, fighting disease, providing clean water and sanitation, saving mothers and children, supporting education, growing local economies, and protecting the environment. Are we ready? Really? I got so much more facts. Okay, that is to be continued. All right. Number 2, Elizabeth Chen. Topic, dangers of personalized algorithms.
Let's imagine for a moment that it's the morning of a school day, and you're in your second period chemistry class. As you're trying to keep up with the lecture and are diligently taking notes, you look up and realize that almost all of your classmates are on their phones. And I mean, sure, maybe ionic and covalent bonding isn't exactly what you want to hear about at 8 in the morning, but what's on those phones that's just so interesting that they're on it like all the time? Must be those facegrams and snapbooks. And while that's actually not far from the truth, social media does keep us glued to our phones, but specifically, it's social media's usage of personalized algorithms. Through these algorithms, we are recommended what we like, and what we don't like is censored, meaning that atoms in the periodic table won't be showing up on your For You page anytime soon. Seems pretty great, right? Well, despite its convenience, personalized algorithms can pose some threats. What it does is it produces spaces with little to no opposition for users, and this lack of nuance can create an echo chamber. Such echo chambers can lead to a variety of issues, many of which may go unnoticed. So today, let's uncover the negative effects of personalized algorithms using the Rotary 4-way test. And hopefully by the end, we can find a way to alleviate them. First, is it the truth that personalized algorithms cause echo chambers? Yes. An echo chamber is defined by the Cambridge Dictionary as the situation in which people only hear opinions of one type, or opinions that are similar to their own. When your For You page is full of posts similar to what you have expressed you like, then an echo chamber is created. But this isn't always a bad thing, though. For example, if you love a certain TV show, then seeing posts about the latest episode or theories on the characters would probably make your day. This kind of personalization is one of the more harmless types. But unfortunately, not all forms are. In a discussion about online echo chambers, Harvard law professor Cass Sunstein identifies one particularly devastating effect as group polarization. He states that when you only listen to people who are like you, you'll likely become more confident and possibly more extreme too. We become increasingly intolerant of the other side as personalized algorithms limit information flow to only what we agree with. Social media is a defining part of our daily lives, and we are taking this practice of blocking out what we don't like into the real world. But it isn't fair to all concerned that we silence those who disagree with us without truly getting to know them. Judgment is passed and prejudice is enforced through our unwillingness to hear the other side. Friendships are in fact not bettered through this, and we lose meaningful connections as they get buried under trivial differences, and we are blinded by polarization. And it doesn't matter how small the issue may be. Group polarization affects every matter, from Pepsi versus Coke, all the way to the Congress floor, with Democrats versus Republicans. When our legislators can't look past the blue or red, compromise is prevented, hindering us on our quest in furthering justice and equality. We need to hear each other out, because if we don't, goodwill cannot be built. And to add on to this, the more extreme example of the dangers of personalized algorithms and echo chambers is the January 6th raid on the US Capitol. But as we examine this event, let's put the politics aside for now. Stanford researcher Renee DiResta says that at its core, this event was an example of real-world violence caused by an online echo chamber. When a group of people go onto social media and all they see are views that they agree with that call for violence, we shouldn't be surprised when a riot ensues. And that was what happened in 2021. Regardless of which candidate you support, I think we can all agree that violence should not be condoned. Many people were traumatized due to this raid. There's even loss of life. We have to strive for peace, no matter our party. And I think it's clear that personalized algorithms are not beneficial to all concerned. Yet, we must remember that personalized algorithms are not all inherently bad either. They weren't programmed to cause group polarization or violence. It was merely a strategy to keep us engaged so that companies could earn money. But this tactic is having real-world consequences. And thankfully, some social media companies are starting to realize it. Now, they're taking action and trying to combat this issue by dedicating portions of our feed to diverse perspectives, rather than keeping it all aligned with our interests. However, a new kind of algorithm isn't enough. We must also become more aware of our tendencies. We should actively seek diverse opinions and make educating ourselves a priority. We must also remain respectful and open to discussion, even if we disagree. Sometimes we just have to step out of our comfort zones and embrace what we don't really like. Remember that complexity is what makes us human. It means that Democrats and Republicans can work together to better our nation. It means that Pepsi lovers and Coke enthusiasts can be friends. And it means that my classmates can finally put their phones down and pay attention to our chemistry lecture so we can all pass that upcoming test. Thank you.
All right, let's go back to some facts. Not as interesting as some of these speeches, but Still informative. Let's see. We know that the Rotary International operates under the guiding principles of service to others and promoting integrity and advanced world understanding, goodwill, peace, and service above all. And of course, the Rotary members adhere to the organization's ethical framework of what we are hearing about today. And if anybody would think that these 4 questions couldn't answer the most toughest and ethical questions that there are, just listen to our kids talking right now, because it is truly, truly, truly amazing. Let's talk about the history of Rotary, because there's one little fact on here that just really kind of gets to me. We'll talk about that in a minute. It was founded back in February 23rd in 1905 in Chicago, Illinois by attorney Paul Harris. And what it was just a bunch of men just getting together, group of professionals with diverse backgrounds who could exchange ideas for meaningful, lifelong friendships. The second Rotary then, the idea kicked on so much that the second Rotary was established in San Francisco across the country in 1908. And then by 1912, and you think about this without social media and where we're at, by 1912, it was in 6 continents already. So from 1905 to 1912, it expanded that much. So the idea of Rotary and the idea of getting together with diverse backgrounds of businessmen, talking and building of friendships really adhered to a lot of people. Over time, the Rotary's vision reached all over the country, as I had mentioned before. However, women weren't invited into the Rotary until what would you think, 39, 49, 69, 79, 89, 1989. And the thought was, well, yeah, things have changed since 1905. Really? Has it? So in 1989, women came into the Rotary and have established themselves as Rotarians and have taken probably the biggest growth from 1989 to where it is now. So and by the way, back in the day, a female Rotarian who was not a Rotarian, because you weren't allowed to be a Rotarian until 1989, were called Rotary-Anns. Okay. Or Rotary spouses. I guess that was a good. I thought that fact just blew me away. All right, are we ready? We're ready. All righty. Our third speaker. Oh, thank you for coming up front. That was very nice. Okay. Our third speaker is Leo Sejara, and his topic is going to be artificial intelligence.
$3 million jobs lost. 450,000 companies shut down. 6,500 data breaches. All because of one advancement in technology. Artificial intelligence. Now, let me take a step back. How many of you here are concerned about what I just said? It's a powerful statement, isn't it? It's enough for someone to completely switch perspectives and question the role of AI in today's society. But ladies and gentlemen, here's the catch. That statement was completely false. In fact, it took me 6, maybe 7 seconds to come up with. This moment right here exemplifies a crucial issue in today's society. The role of misinformation. If I brought out a product to you right now that was developed by artificial intelligence, I'm sure it would have raised some hesitation. And that is how society reacts to the advancing artificial intelligence. It's a reaction completely fueled by false information and surface-level reasoning. And that's what I'm here to solve today, using the Rotary Club's 4-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And is it beneficial to all concerned? Now, to contradict my false statement earlier, here's a true one. AI is an idea, and it's an idea worth investing in. Yes, it's a simple claim, but it's the truth. And let me tell you why. Back in the late 1990s, there were two individuals, Larry and Sergey. Now, Larry and Sergey were remarkably bright, and they had a vision to develop a software application that harnesses the world's data onto one platform and make it accessible to all. That vision is what's now known as Google, the $1.8 trillion company that has changed the world. And I believe AI has the same potential, the potential to shape society. And we've already seen evidence in the medical industry. Diabetic retinopathy is a leading cause for blindness among diabetes patients. It's caused by the body's constant exposure to high blood glucose sugar levels, also known as hyperglycemia. A couple of years ago, Google developed an artificial intelligence model that reads these retinal images and studies them and detects early signs of the disease in these patients. And it even flags those individuals who need immediate medical attention. Now, not only has this increased efficiency in the medical workforce, but it's allowed for screenings to be available to those underrepresented population, enhancing their life. Now, that's the truth. And I say, let it grow. To those of you who have watched the Lorax, you'll understand that reference. How is artificial intelligence fair to all concerned? And to address this question, we need to look at some of the leading causes of issues in society today. Gender discrimination, race discrimination, unequal opportunity. What's common in all three of these? It's that all three have been developed and evolved over time by humans to the issues that they are in society today, which means they're human-made errors, errors that AI can't even comprehend or perform. So, not only can we use artificial intelligence to mitigate discrimination, but we can use its abilities to develop fairness checks to make sure individuals are assessed solely based on their qualifications and not the color of their skin. Now that's fair. How does artificial intelligence help build goodwill and better friendships? Now this is the spark of AI. How many of you here have used ChatGPT before? Thank you. So have I. It's ChatGPT's emotionally connecting responses. It's like you're talking to another individual, an individual that is dedicated to making you grow, to making you a better person. Through interacting with these AI models, it's like someone's listening, someone's giving you the time that you deserve. And for some individuals, that's all they need. All they need to go, get a head start in life, meet new people, form new connections. How does artificial intelligence help and be beneficial to everyone in society? This question raises some concern over the use of AI. How is artificial intelligence so beneficial when millions of people are losing their jobs? And to answer this question, ladies and gentlemen, we pose another question. Should we be stuck in the past or jump ahead into the future? Because if AI is advancing, so is society. The same artificial intelligence that is taking these jobs is providing new jobs in the technological realm. The same artificial intelligence that is automating these mundane tasks is providing an online platform for individuals to grow, to meet new people, find new job opportunities. So, in fact, artificial intelligence is beneficial to all concerned. In conclusion, I leave you with this thought. AI is not just a technological advancement. No, it's a catalyst. It's a catalyst for growth. It's a catalyst for opportunity. And most importantly, it's a catalyst for a brighter future. And along with any technological advancements comes its downfalls and its negatives. But ultimately, it serves for this betterment of our society. So, let's remember the words of Dr. Seuss's The Lorax. Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot about something, nothing is going to get better. It isn't. So let's care for our societal betterment. Let's care for AI. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I used AI for this. ChatGPT is my new friend. Okay, yeah, so back to women. Yeah, 1989, I can't get over that. So, we'll move on. We'll move on with some more facts. Let's talk about Rotary in the next generation. And I think this test, this competition really promotes the next generation of our leaders. I mean, listening to these young people speak today, no one can say, oh, the young kids today, because this is the epitome of our young kids today, and this is what is going to be running our country and creating new, I can't even imagine what it's going to be like in 20 years from now. There's different ways that kids can get involved with Rotary. The Interact Club. For those of you in high school, check to see if your high school has an Interact Club. An Interact Club is a club that promotes services. So, and if not, if that's something that you think that you might want to have in your high school, go talk to your principal or assistant principal and say, hey, maybe can we get an Interact Club? Go to your Rotary club and see if that's something. I'll tell you more ways in a minute. Let's get on with the speeches. It's like the same bat time, same bat channel. Number 4, Ellie Coleman, mitigating the harm of fast fashion.
My mom loves to tell me stories about how different things were when she was growing up in the 1970s and 80s. Obviously, there was no internet, no social media, and apparently no school buses because she had to walk to school uphill both ways. Okay, so that last one wasn't true. But one of the things she tells me is that when she was growing up, kids basically got new clothes just a few times a year, when it was time to go back to school, on holidays, and on birthdays. For kids nowadays, the clothes buying experience is very different because of a relatively new phenomenon called fast fashion. And these differences are causing serious problems that must be addressed. Fast fashion companies like Shein and Zara use social media to target adolescent girls like me. They hire influencers, send them tens of thousands of dollars in clothes to wear once, post pictures in, and you guessed it, influence young people, especially girls, to buy their clothes. And I will admit, when I was in middle school, I got sucked in. And I was definitely not the only one. The fast fashion industry has exploded since 2015. An article from earth.org explains that with the rise of fast fashion, over 100 billion items of clothing are now being made each year. And a study describes how 93% of brands don't pay garment workers a living wage, which I will come back to later. Also, a lot of fast fashion brands specially target the 24 and under female demographic with the idea that quantity is better than quality and clothes can just be thrown away when they start to wear out. When I was younger, I fell victim to these marketing ploys that targeted me and my desire for cheap, cute clothes. But now that I know about this issue, I am done with fast fashion. The rapid growth of fast fashion has brought undeniable consequences, from environmental degradation to worker exploitation. It is our collective responsibility to pave the way for a more sustainable and ethical future in the world of fashion. This brings us to the important question: how can we mitigate the harms fast fashion is causing on workers and the environment, and stitch together a narrative of positive transformation for generations to come? We can find the answer to this question by putting it through the Rotary 4-way test. First, is it the truth? The answer to the question of whether fast fashion is having detrimental effects is absolutely yes. Fast fashion causes environmental degradation at exponential rates. An article from the Center for Biological Diversity explains that fast fashion producers have multiple things that cause harm to the environment throughout every stage of the fast fashion manufacturing process, harming wildlife, degrading land, and polluting soil and water. And the same article also asserts that fast fashion is responsible for over 10% of global carbon dioxide emissions. A 2022 article from the United Nations explains that this is more than all international flights and maritime shipping combined. This makes it the truth that fast fashion is a huge contributor to environmental degradation, so people need to be aware about this issue and take action. The second question of the four-way test: is it fair to all concerned? Sadly, the answer to this question is a resounding no. The fast fashion industry promotes poor and even deadly working conditions. Report after report has found evidence of forced and child labor in over 15 countries where fast fashion is produced. The article that says 93% of brands surveyed don't pay garment workers a living wage asserts that most fast fashion companies have garment workers who are seriously poor and can't even live in nice environments. A lot of these companies promote awful working conditions. According to Human Rights Watch, in addition to low wages, workers work with little to no ventilation, where they breathe in toxic substances, and accidents, fires, injuries, and disease are all very common in the workplace. This makes it very unfair to anyone involved in the fast fashion companies because of unfair wages and dangerous working conditions. The third question of the four-way test that we need to address is, will it build goodwill and better friendships? When looking at the fast fashion industry itself, the answer to this question is no. But if we look toward a positive course of action to address the environmental and worker-related concerns to fast fashion, we can bring about change and build goodwill and better friendships and answer this question with a yes. Most fast fashion companies don't promote enough safety in their environments. Because of this, goodwill and better friendships is not in the fast fashion industry. But if we look toward a positive course of action, as I said previously, we can bring about this positive change. Finally, the fourth question in the four-way test that we need to address is it fair to all concerned? Again, if we take action to address this issue, the answer is a resounding yes. When we identify problems and take steps to address them, we are not just building relationships, we are building a better future, and that is beneficial to all concerned. Efforts to address this issue will benefit workers, the environment, and even consumers who can feel good that what they're wearing isn't causing harm to workers or to the environment. The threads of progress are within our grasp, and by weaving a tapestry of conscious decision-making, we can mend the fabric to a more harmonious and responsible future. This brings us back to the important question: how can we mitigate the harms caused by fast fashion and stitch together a narrative of positive transformation for generations to come? We found the answer with the four-way test, where we saw how far-reaching the problem is, but also found hope in possible solutions that could bring us together as we raise awareness. We can build a better future for everyone, and maybe, just maybe, when I tell my children stories of what it was like growing up in 2024, I can share how we committed to creating a brighter future for their generation and future generations yet to come. Thank you.
All right, I don't know about you, but I did walk uphill twice a day with my lunch buckets banging against my leg. In a school, really, honestly, back in the school, just to digress for a second, girls weren't allowed to wear pants. So that was back in the 70s. Okay, I'm going back to 1989 with the Rotarians just allowing women in. But back in the 70s, and it was a public school, and we were not allowed to wear pants. We had to wear our skirts and like our jeans underneath them and take the jeans off when we got to school and put them, and I mean, then I went to the neighboring district, which was a little bit more progressive, and they were like, oh yeah, you can wear pants. I was like, oh my God, look at us, go. All right. Other ways that kids can get involved. There's a club, it's called the Rotary Youth Leadership Awards, it's the RILA, And that's an intensive leadership experience for young people who want to learn new skills, build their confidence, and have fun. This is, somebody can get nominated through their Rotary Club, so if that's something that you think as a young person would like to do, again, talk to your Rotary Club and see how they go about picking who goes to the RILA. Another thing that Rotary does, which I didn't realize until last year, is that they have a huge youth exchange program with people all over the countries. And it could be anywhere that you're there for the whole school year or for short periods of month. So if you're interested in being a host family, or if it's something that you think that you might like to do, again, talk to your Rotary Club. All right, let's talk to number 5 now. We have Caitlin Gardner, social media's negative effects.
As I stand here today, I want to propose a question. That if something hurt us, then why would we continue to do it? 46% of adolescents aged 14 to 17 said that social media made them feel worse about themselves. Yet 95% of us are still afraid to just press delete. I've always believed that in order to know something, you must experience it. And today I want to tell you about my story, because social media consumed me and it changed my life. At the end of 2023, I found myself on the receiving end of hate comments. People making fun of the way I looked and what I wore, and even my family, and it broke me. So I did a cleanse, and for 2 months I deleted social media. And at first I thought to myself, what if I lose my social status? And the vibration from my phone was a comfort sound that I was missing, and I didn't know how to communicate to my peers if I didn't have a screen in front of my face. And I needed the validation, even if it came from a hate comment, at least it was still a comment. Social media is an important topic to me because it changed my life and I fell a statistic to it. And in order to effectively talk about it today, I will be using the Rotary 4-way test. Is it the truth? Is social media real? Is everything we say on the internet factual? No, social media is not real. It's a lie, and it's the biggest scam that we all have fallen for. Social media creates a false narrative that's filled with misinformation that targets tweens and teens because we have young and vulnerable minds. On social media, you can be anyone you want to be. You can live in bright, sunny California when you actually live in cold, rainy Ohio. And you can be 16 with a driver's license when you're actually 13 and have no idea what side the gas pedal's on. See, on social media, you can be anyone you want to be, but so can everybody else. Social media doesn't create authenticity, it takes from it by making every single individual the same. And these influencers that we look up to so much because they have the perfect backdrop and the room that just never seems to get messy is only showing you a small portion of reality. And I know I'll go on vacation and I'll take a million pictures, and through all those pictures, I find one good one, and that picture becomes my cover. Tweens and teens are constantly taught to cover for our truth. Because on social media, I look like the perfect girl with it all together, and there's no flaw in sight. But in reality, I've never felt more empty and more alone. And see, I follow these ways in these social media, and that is what it has done, and that is what it has produced on me. And so that is not the truth, because social media didn't teach me confidence, but it did teach me how to glamorize disordered eating, and it did teach me how to find every flaw or imperfection that I may have, and it showed me a world of young girls just like me. And so no, that's not the truth. Social media isn't real. Is it fair to all concerned? Social media has proposed that young girls need to post scandalous pictures of themselves on the internet just to be socially accepted. And is it fair that social media has proposed this beauty standard that you have to look like in order to be accepted and in order to fit in? Social media has doubled the number of eating disorders in girls since 2018, and these influencers that we're taught to idolize so much are doing the exact same thing, making sure they don't have cellulite and that they don't have a stomach to be seen just so they can look impossible. And by doing so, they made me and many other young girls feel impossible because there was no diet or workout trend to make my legs slim fast enough, and my feed of these perfect girls and perfect bodies that I'm supposed to look like, I look nothing like. That's what social media has done. And soon it will do the things that it has done to me, to many other young girls, and no, that's not fair. Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Social media has been the #1 deteriorator of all my friendships and relationships. As a cheerleader, I'm familiar with competition, but social media has proposed the greatest competition yet. One between myself and my peers and the whole world around me, but I often stop to think, what am I even fighting for? Because on social media, there's no empathy and there's no emotion, and half the time, there's not even words, because why should someone communicate with you verbally if they don't like you physically? That is what social media has done. It's taken that away from us, and instead, it has ruined friendships, and it's given them a platform to post hate comments and rumors. And it's given them a part to see that if you don't fit in with their friend group and the standard of blonde hair and a 00 waist, then you're not good enough. But this platform that they have provided, you can post comments like, oh my goodness, she's really skinny, I wonder if she's anorexic. And comments like, oh no, I heard she deleted social media, I wonder if she's like depressed. And even as deep and as dark is, why hasn't she killed herself already? And these comments are hurtful, and they are painful, and they are real, and they were said to me, and I felt that emotion. And no, it didn't build any goodwill, and it didn't better any of my friendships. It ruined them, single-handedly, and it left me alone and feeling like I was nothing. Will it be beneficial to all concerned? When I ask myself this question, the simple answer is no. Social media didn't benefit me, it betrayed me, and it took from me. And I know without it, I'd still be the strong and confident girl I am today, and I didn't need to be bullied or isolated by hate comments in order to grow. I used to live from the validation, from the comments and the likes, and I used it as a lifeline. But what good is a lifeline in digital reality that I didn't even know how to be a part of? So young people, parents, educators, and judges, I encourage you to really know the effects that social media has on your life and your dreams and your goals and your aspirations, and know that it's okay to put social media down and take a step away and know you are greater than an ideal image and a statistic, and you are worth the fight that I am here today to give. Social media won't change, but you can. Don't be afraid to just press delete. Thank you.
Man, I am glad I am not a judge. And finally, one more, the way that kids can get involved is most Rotary clubs do offer scholarships. So the kids who are looking for scholarships for schools, again, talk to your counselors, see if there's a Rotary scholarship out there for you, and hopefully, apply for it and win that. I think that's probably all the facts I have on Rotary. The only other thing is, if you want to join Rotary, go to the Rotary website, look to see where there's a club available near you. You don't have to join right away. You can participate in some of the service projects that they might do, go to a couple meetings, see if it's a right fit for you. Rotary meetings happen all the time. There's some in the mornings. There's some, ours meets in the afternoon on Thursdays. There's some that I think, meet after work. So look to see, some are totally online. So I'm sure there's a Rotary club out there for you somewhere. So just take a look-see and see if you are a good choice for it. All right, are we ready? All right, let's go with number 6, Kaya Calderhead, and her debate is on debate.
Debate. The ancient Greeks are widely remembered for it. Democracy was built on it. But how is it that such a lofty endeavor could possibly help the common man? The students of a history class, Or the newly made friends deciding what to get for dinner? Just how important could it possibly be to dig deeper and ask questions rather than simply stating sentences? These days, we are deluded by a sense of respecting others, so much so that we refrain from any meaningful discussion. We shy away from debate in fear of triggering others. But what point is there in knowing the whats without asking any of the whys? In times where we're afraid to speak our minds for fear of backlash, debate instills better confidence and eloquence. In this speech, I will argue that debate should be more commonly practiced, both in the formal and informal settings. And now, let's put debate to the four-way test. Firstly, is it the truth? How is it that we find the truth, but through argument, through discussion, through debate? The purpose of any debate is to ask questions and find truth hidden within issues that we may better understand the world we live in and the people around us. Debate is a device to know and perpetuate the truth. It does not act solely as some mechanism of persuasion, though it can, and indeed often does serve as one, but rather as a means to see all sides of any given topic, with the goal of understanding and of working towards the greater good. It is not some forceful inquisition of opinions, and it is not reserved for any one people group. Throughout history, debate has served to advance many nations, evident in ancient Greece's rhetoricians, Europe's various changes during the Renaissance, and within our very own Constitution, the result of debate between Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson. Secondly, is it fair to all concerned? Nowadays, it's all too common that this term fairness denotes at least some acknowledgement of subjective truths. But should this really be the case? There is further fairness to be found, I would assert, in a society which can base itself on more solid grounds than these subjective truths. Debate provides room to delve deep into uncomfortable topics. It provides space to dissect all sides of an issue in order to establish common ground. In a society which fosters non-competitive debate, both on the formal and casual scale, everyone is able to make contributions. The opinions of all can be better heard and better understood, and places which truly do require some agreement to disagree may be identified and surmounted. Furthermore, the participant providing an opinion may better understand his or her own position with all of its nuances. The listener, too, receives fair and multifaceted information, which accurately represents all sides of any argument. Everyone has an equal opportunity and responsibility to perceive and respond to the truth. Will debate build goodwill and better friendships? How is it that we make friends in the first place, but by expressing our opinions and comparing them with those of another, whether they be so slight as the weather or as fundamental as religion? Can a true, long-lasting friendship be built on flattery and supposed good feels alone? More and more, the value of true friendship has been lost. Many struggle to make friends in a world which tells us that friendships are simply here to make us happy. How then can we remedy this issue? Debate. Through debate, we can build meaningful relationships which constitute mutual growth, empathy, and communication skills. Debate, rather than simply being about winning some argument, oftentimes aims to find common ground between two seemingly wholly opposed positions. Good friends ought to look out for one another. Iron sharpens iron. In a debate setting, one learns to consider and build upon his own arguments when his friend, or in this case, his opponent, points out its flaws. A key element of growth is addressing these flaws, which is often best achieved through means of constructive criticism, which is, in turn, effectively gained through conversations, that is, debates, such as these. And finally, will debate be beneficial for all concerned? In a day and age where people really don't take the time to look around them and question the world they live in, debate tills the ground for growing the mind and for broadening one's perspectives. Again, even being able to listen to debate provides the general public with solid, traceable information,
which is severely lacking in news outlets of the day. Participating in and listening to debates grows better thinkers, better voters, better citizens. After all, it is debate which most quickly teaches the skill of logic, a vastly crucial one which is regrettably all too absent from society today, and it is that same logic which develops into critical thinking. With a critically thinking populace, we may begin to confront serious issues for which understanding the opposition is necessary. Complex issues require deep and critical thinking. If we cannot pass on debate and it dies, so with it dies understanding, unity, ever sought for in vain by the world. Without debate, definite truths may be lost forever, and the confusions of this world will only continue to perpetuate. Thank you.
So, let's talk about something different. The biggest thing that is on everybody's mind, well, I think it's on everybody's mind, is the eclipse coming up. How many of you have your glasses? All right, I'm going to give you a little hint here. So when you've got those glasses and you're looking at them and you're going, why? I can't see, they're black when you're not looking at anything. So I took mine out and I looked at the sun. I think, wow, this is really, truly amazing. Do not do this. While you're looking at them, take them off. I was just like, oh, don't do that, because I am going to tell you what, I don't think I could see for like 3 minutes after that. And you know what? Tonight, they talk about the eclipse and they're talking about how long, but tonight, the moon will be visible from the earth. The last time that happened was last night. It seems like that's all you're hearing about is the eclipse. And my sister-in-law, God love her, she's in education. We were friends before she married my brother. And she's like, let's go downtown and be on a rooftop. I'm like, I had to walk uphill to school. I'm not going into a rooftop, please. I wasn't allowed to wear pants. I am not going to a rooftop with a bunch of 20-year-olds to look at an eclipse for that long of a time. No. I'll sit in my backyard and be just fine with that. All right, let's go with number 7. Zoe Lefevre, book banning.
Raise your hand if you like to read. I love reading. I love books, articles, short stories, poems, you name it. Reading is a way for me to learn about different cultures, places, peoples, and to learn to empathize with situations that I may not understand. One of my favorite books, The Hate U Give by Angie Thomas, is a tale of Black teenager Star Carter who witnesses an act of extreme police brutality against her best friend. As someone who can't easily relate, this story opened my eyes to the cruel discrimination faced by so many today. I can't imagine who I would be if I hadn't had this book alongside so many others in my childhood. So when I found out that The Hate U Give had been recognized in the top 10 most banned and challenged books in the 2 years following its release, I was shocked. Before that moment, I had never truly understood the gravity of banning books. So there I was, thinking to myself, how could something so instrumental in my understanding of the world be bad? And that is why I am here today, to discuss the repercussions of banning books in the name of propriety. And what better way to do that than to run the issue through the 4-way ethical test? 1, is it the truth? 2, is it fair to all concerned? 3, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And 4, will it be beneficial to all concerned? So, without further ado, 1, is it the truth? Commonly, the act of banning books is defined as the removal of books from libraries and bookstores due to objections to their content. However, Director Judith Krug from the American Library Association Office for Intellectual Freedom words it a bit differently. She states the following about banned books. These are the materials that speak to the human being. These are books that say something. Innocuous materials are never challenged. Put simply, banned books are so true that our officials push them away because they can't accept the realities they reveal. So when asked the question, is banning books the truth, the answer is a resounding no. Rather, banning books is the explicit removal of the truth from our shelves. So now, let's look at question 2. Is it fair to all concerned? When we consider who is affected by book bans, educators and students come quickly to mind. However, in terms of fairness, our hard-working teachers and school administrators are affected disproportionately when compared to parents and even children. In terms of fairness, there is none. Multiple studies, including one conducted by NEA Today, have concluded that many educators feel mistrusted by the officials administering book bans, as though their judgment and expertise are being ignored. Librarian Erica Long was interviewed in NEA Today's study on her views towards the subject. She states that we end up in this place where people's personal feelings, morals, political ideations take hold of a larger narrative. For educators, it creates a situation where they are expected to teach a one-sided history. The goal is to educate our youth truthfully and without barriers, not to teach this one-sided history. There is no way that fairness could equate to this. Next, question 3. Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Do you all remember earlier when I stated that my reading of more sensitive materials helped me build empathy towards others? Well, I believe that that sentiment holds true no matter who the audience is. So my question then is this. If my reading made me care so deeply for others, who would I be without it? Without that chance to understand other people's experiences, other people's pain. Reversing our progress towards understanding one another does not foster goodwill and better friendships. It only continues to foster ignorance towards the truth. So finally, question 4. Will it be beneficial to all concerned? For a fourth and final time, the answer is no. To explore why, I'd like to turn away from our educators and towards our students. Children aged anywhere from 5 to 18 are having their educations wounded by the unfair consequences of others' actions. An education advocacy organization, First Book, outlines the impacts that this can have on the development of our youth. They state that diverse books are indispensable in engaging youth, improving student reading scores, and promoting strong senses of self and empathy towards others. See, these books challenge not only young readers' comprehension skills, but the way that they see the world. The same organization goes on to explain that when offered books with varying points of view, children are more likely to read in the first place. The wonderful thing about books covering diverse and difficult topics is that more children see themselves reflected in the pages. Banning books is not beneficial to all concerned if we are actively removing engaging reading material and relatable stories that are so important to the development of our youth. After all, our youth are our future. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Does it build goodwill and better friendships? And is it beneficial to all concerned? No, 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 and no. So, I challenge all of you here to read these books, to write these books, to speak out about these issues. As Star Carter from The Hate U Give says, what is the point of having a voice if you are going to be silent in those moments you shouldn't be? Thank you.
Again, just wow. So let's talk a little bit. Let's see, we talked about the eclipse, we talked about Rotarians, we talked about women joining in 1989. Let's talk about firsts. I did something for the first time ever. Hard to believe in my many, 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 many years on this earth, but I had never, ever been to Disney World or Disneyland, believe it or not. So I have a pretty big birthday coming up this year. So my daughter, who lives in California, says, hey, let's go to Disneyland. I said, okay, I've never been, let's go to Disneyland. So we're sitting in Disneyland, and we're at our first ride, and I said to her, I said, hey, listen, I'll go on any ride. Any ride. I go, but I really don't want to go on that demon drop thing, the one that goes up and down. I said, you know, your Uncle Frank went on it, and he got sick, and he didn't feel right afterwards, and I go, I really don't want to go on it. She's like, don't worry, Mom, we won't go on it. I said, okay, fine. So we're standing in line, and we're talking. We get to the ride, and sit down, and I said, oh, by the way, what ride is this? She said, oh, it's the demon drop one. I said, are you kidding me? I said, what are you thinking? All right. So I don't know if you've ever been on the one. It's the one in Disneyland. It's the Guardians of the Galaxy. It goes up and down, up and down. You know, your stomach goes to your toes, comes out of your mouth, goes back down to your toes. We're done with it. I look over and I says, oh my goodness gracious me, is it over? She goes, yeah, it's over. Poof, we go back up. I wanted to kill her. I wanted to kill her. I'm thinking, oh my, so that was a first for me. She says, let's go do it again. I said, yeah, okay, yeah, let's get right on that, baby. All right, let's get to our next contestant. Number 8, Joshua Jordan, Political Party Discord.
On September 17th, 1796, George Washington issued his final address to the nation as president, in which he stated that the alternate domination of one faction over another, sharpened by the spirit of revenge natural to party dissension, which in different ages and countries has perpetrated the most horrid enormities, is itself a frightful despotism. Washington spoke on many issues facing the nation in his farewell address. However, I think the most important, and certainly the most relevant today, were his dire warnings on the nature of political parties. So what did we do in the face of the president's grave concerns? We gave him a big old round of applause for his speech, sent him off to Mount Vernon, and did exactly what he told us not to do. Now it seems as though America is on the precipice of disaster, not at the hands of political parties themselves, but as a result of the hatred and partisan animosity that has arisen within them. Today, I will be putting political polarization to the 4-way test. And in the end, I intend to look at some ways that we, as individuals, can help to solve this problem. So let's begin. First, is it the truth? Well, it's certainly the truth that we, as a nation, are at one of our most divided points in history. Indeed, the Pew Research Center finds that Democrats and Republicans are further apart ideologically today than at any other point in the past 50 years. But what isn't the truth is the messages being promoted through the misinformation and disinformation that has arisen as a result of this division. A Statista survey conducted in January found that over 1/3 of respondents said they had seen some sort of misleading information regarding this year's election in the past week. As we continue to drift apart as a nation, we become trapped in our own echo chambers of misinformation, and the truth gets drowned out. But then, is it fair to all concerned? I think it's safe to say that democracy is the fairest form of government that exists today, one of the people, by the people, for the people, in which every single person gets their vote. Unfortunately, political polarization is one of the greatest threats democracy faces. As the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace explains, polarization harms healthy discourse and instead turns democratic states into battlegrounds for power struggle, thus undermining the democratic process. If democracy fails, fairness becomes all but impossible to achieve. Next, does it build goodwill and better friendships? Absolutely not. In fact, goodwill between political parties is at an all-time low, with the Pew Research Center finding that the percentage of people who would describe the other side as, say, immoral, for instance, has increased dramatically in recent years. In 2016, it was 23% of Democrats and 32% of Republicans. Now the numbers are 63% and 72% for Democrats and Republicans, respectively. I ask you, how are we supposed to build better friendships when well over 50% of people on both sides assume those who hold beliefs different from their own are immoral? So no, political polarization does not build goodwill or better friendships. And finally, is it beneficial to all concerned? Let me ask you this. Has anything I've said thus far sounded beneficial to you? No. This division does nothing but create extremism, misinformation, and ill will within our country's borders. And the inefficiencies it's produced are clear to see, with our government having shut down 14 times since 1980. Divided, no one benefits. But I would be remiss to simply tell you what's wrong with our nation without providing some sort of solution. So allow me to do that now. When we encounter an opposing viewpoint, our first inclination is to react with anger or spite, to write off that opinion as ill-informed or even stupid. Trust me, I've been there. But if you want to help solve the problem of polarization, then you need to fight this initial urge and do three things instead: understand, relate, and separate. Let me tell you a story about what each of those things mean and how I came up with them. First, understand. I participate in my school's speech and debate program, and I do debate competitively. Every 2 months, we get a new topic to discuss. And while I often have my own opinions on these topics, in debate, you have to argue for both sides, meaning I've had to learn to research, construct arguments for, and passionately defend positions that I don't even agree with. And while I've never come out of a topic with a different opinion on something, I've come out of every topic with a much greater understanding for why the other side believes what they do, and a much greater appreciation for how complex the issue truly is. When we can understand where someone is coming from and why they believe what they do, even if we don't agree with it, it paves the way to meaningful and respectful discussion. Second is relate. Something unique about the type of debate I do, that being Lincoln-Douglas debate, is the value. A value is essentially what your side is trying to achieve, what the end goal is. And while sometimes you and your opponent will have a different value, you'll find that surprisingly often, both sides will be trying to achieve the same thing. The same is true outside of debate. You'll find that more often than not, you and the person you disagree with both want the same thing in the end. You'll find you have far more in common than you originally expected. And when you can relate to someone in this way and look past your differences, it paves the way to goodwill that could not have existed before. And finally, separate. In debate, it's understood that how someone debates in a round has little to do with who they are as a person. I found the same is true with political affiliations. Some of my best friends are people with whom I can agree on nothing politically. But we're still friends because political affiliations have little to do with somebody's personality or how they are as a person. When we're able to separate what we think about someone's beliefs from what we think about them, it paves the way to connections and friendships you may previously have never thought possible. So I challenge you, next time you encounter an opposing viewpoint, rather than give in to those initial feelings of anger or frustration, try to understand where they're coming from and why they believe what they do. Separate what you think of their beliefs from what you think of them as a person, and relate to them in some way on a deeper level. I truly believe that if everyone could do this, it would be the first step to closing the rift and healing this wound in our society. I began the speech with a quote. Let me end it with another, this time from Martin Luther King Jr. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Thank you.
All right, let's see, what else can we talk about? Because that's all I had. The weather, hopefully it's gonna get warm soon enough. I heard it's supposed to be nice for the eclipse, where we could see the moon, which we saw yesterday, and we're gonna see tomorrow. I hope it doesn't rain, and I will not be on a rooftop, just so you know. You know, my favorite thing was in the weather, when I was looking at AccuWeather, they said, oh, and it will get a couple degrees cooler during the eclipse. No duh. Again, I want to have a job like that where I could just make statements and people say, wow, that person's really smart. All right, are we ready for number 9? Almost. Oh, gosh. Oh, goodness gracious me. I did have a couple Rotarian jokes, but I chose not to do those. Okay, no, that's all right. No, pass on that. Okay, all right, ready? Okay, let's do number 9. Peter McGinnis. Oh, I gotta put my glasses on for this. The importance of LGBTQ plus education.
Gay. I was 9 years old, sitting alone in row 6 of a cold yellow school bus, when I first heard that word echoing from the seats behind me. It was neatly packaged inside of a quick but piercing insult, as if it felt comfortable serving as a tool for violence. Although initially unaware of its significance, I could tell it felt both natural and out of place at the same time. A feeling I knew all too well. Faggot. I was 12 years old, utilizing social media as a means to understand my identity when I first encountered those 6 seemingly innocent letters. Initially oblivious, I looked up the word's meaning. A simple action that altered my perception of myself. I realized I was not only different, but my very existence was seemingly offensive. In a society in which LGBTQ plus education is not only scarce, but actively censored, I was forced to learn about myself and my community through unreliable means, social media. With Instagram and YouTube as stand-ins for teachers, I matured without fully understanding who I was becoming and why I strayed from the status quo. But I was not and am not alone. In 2011, California became the first state to enact legislation requiring the implementation of LGBTQ plus inclusive education into state curricula. However, in the 13 years since, only 5 other states have followed suit. While that slight progress is inspiring, many other states are deliberately censoring this education. Most notably, Florida's Parental Rights in Education Bill, more commonly known as the Don't Say Gay Bill, which only a minority of Floridians support, prohibits classroom discussion regarding sexual orientation or gender identity through the 12th grade. And since that legislation, 30 similar anti-LGBTQ plus education laws have been passed in 16 states. As I said, deliberately censored. So what do I propose? The implementation of LGBTQ plus inclusive education into national curricula. But what does that mean? Many believe that this more inclusive education would result in primary school students learning about complex theory or detailed sexual education, but that is simply not the case. Instead, as teacher Sarah Springer states, primary school students might learn that families come in all shapes and sizes, and as they progress through middle school and beyond, they might learn about prominent LGBTQ plus figures, gaining insight into the challenges the community had to overcome to get to where it is today. So with that example in mind, let's walk together through the Rotary 4-way test. First, is it the truth? Well, drawing from personal experience, if I had learned about my community through school rather than through unreliable means like social media, I would have learned that I wasn't abnormal. I would have felt seen, heard, and understood. But it's not just my personal experience. According to the American Bar Association, LGBTQ plus inclusive education promotes a positive school environment and student well-being for all. So yes, it's the truth. Second, is it fair to all concerns? Of course it is. With 20.8% of Generation Z self-identifying as LGBTQ plus inclusive education would directly benefit 1 in 5 of our nation's students without harming the other 4. While yes, some benefit directly more than others, I argue that it is imperative that all students receive this education because, like I mentioned, it would yield a positive school environment for all. Third, will it bring goodwill and better friendships? Let's look at the stats. According to the same American Bar Association study I mentioned earlier, a positive school environment for LGBTQ plus students increases academic motivation and decreases feelings of sadness, disconnectedness, and even suicidal ideation. In fact, these indicators saw a drastic reduction when LGBTQ+ students felt as safe at school as their straight cisgender peers. And finally, is it beneficial to all concerned? Well, I already mentioned that LGBTQ+ inclusive education would promote a positive school environment for all, but let me now give you an example. While writing this speech, I spoke to a friend of mine, Matt, who lives in the United Kingdom and identifies as straight. At school in the UK, Matt was able to receive LGBTQ+ inclusive education from a young age. And he told me that not only has this education not negatively impacted him in any way, but it made him, quote, more aware and welcoming of his peers. While Matt embodies just one example of the benefits of this education, thousands of others exist. But my goal is to change that number from thousands to tens of millions. So now that we've walked through the Rotary four-way test, I'd like to share one final example. At the beginning of this speech, I mentioned a couple of my many encounters with LGBTQ+ targeted hate speech. But let me now talk about the impacts of those remarks. 3 years ago this month, I attempted to take my life. And the self-hatred I internalized from those who had bullied me for my sexual orientation played a role in my choice to attempt. After a stay in the psych ward, I was sent to California to a residential rehabilitation center for 65 days, where I met other LGBTQ+ kids just like me. It was at rehab that I realized I wasn't abnormal. It was at rehab that I realized I wasn't weird. It was at rehab that I realized my worth. But I should have learned that from school. So now, as you consider your stance on implementing LGBTQ+ inclusive education into national curricula, I urge you to think of the approximately 15 million American LGBTQ+ students who face bullying just for being themselves. I urge you to think of the students who long for representation. I urge you to think of me. Thank you.
We're going to add up those scores. And then we're going to go with our last speaker. I'll tell you, with 10 speakers going on, it sure went by very quickly. The speeches were just extraordinary. Okay, so for our 10th, Sage Wilson, learning is always in style.
All right. Good morning, students. How are we all doing today? Good? Good. Today, my favorites, we will be going over learning styles. So you all will be taking a test, your favorite, I know, to see what your learning styles are. You, I bet you're a kinesthetic learner, always fumbling with your hands. And you, I bet you're a visual learner. Your nose is always in your book. And I bet you think you already know. But no matter what this little quiz says, you aren't any of them. They don't exist. There is no proof of their existence whatsoever. Scholars have even called the learning styles theory a neuromyth. There's absolutely no implications that this theory has any effect on education and learning. But let's put it through the Rotary four-way test and see if it passes. Question 1, is it the truth? Simply put, no. While the idea of learning styles is appealing, that's all it is, an idea. Vanderbilt University defines learning styles as how learners gather, sift through, interpret, organize, come to conclusions about, and store information for further use. The VARC learning style model is the one you all are probably most familiar with. a teacher from New Zealand came up with a theory in 1987 by the name of, He, of course, created the theory with good intentions, but sadly there is just no scientific backing. Theory Institute puts it best. There is no statistically significant difference between those who have learned something according to their so-called learning styles versus those who have not. The individual learning styles theory is little more than an urban legend. Question 2, is it fair to all concerned? I don't see how lying to children at a young age about how they and their peers learn could ever be deemed as fair. We want to put people into these satisfying categories that just don't exist. The evidence is out there. We just don't dig deep enough to see it. Question 3. Will it bring goodwill and better friendships? May I sit down? Sorry, I'm panicking. I don't think I can do it anymore. Sorry.
All right. What we'll do now is we'll give the judges a couple minutes to add up the scores. They're going to go over into the secret corner, under the dome of silence for you Get Smart fans. No. That was the only F I got in college, was singing. All right, next we're going to hear from Rich Cole, who, again, let's give a big round of applause for putting this together. He did an amazing job, so we appreciate everything that he's done.
Shelley's amazing. How entertaining has she been today? How about a round of applause for her? She is so funny. I couldn't stop laughing over there. God bless her. At this time, I would like to extend an overabundance of thanks to so many who worked so hard to pull this event together today. Thank you so much to today's judges and timekeepers. I know I was calling everyone at the last minute when we had to open another room, and I was begging and pleading, and everybody stepped up, and I'm so thankful for that. I think we had possibly 45 speakers today, something around that, which is a wonderful turnout for this event, and it's getting bigger and bigger and better, and I'm thrilled to say that. I want to say a special thank you to our finals judges, District Governor Julie Brandel, District Governor-elect Dale Smith, and past District Governor Larry Lohman. Thank you to Springfield Local Schools for being such a welcoming host for this year's event. And we have one more year on the docket, so I hope you'll all return next year for our trifecta here. Thank you to our four-way test speech committee. Thank you especially to Dustin Boswell, who busted his tail behind the scenes to make today happen. Thank you so much for our moderator, Shelley, the superintendent of this wonderful Springfield Local School District. Our chaplain, Vince Rosnack, thank you for your prayer and for all that you do for Rotary. And Ron Whitmer, our head judge and head timer, thank you for, again, filling in that much needed role so well. Last but certainly not least, I want to say thanks to my beautiful wife, Jenny, who spent 3 days arduously working on this, putting it together too. We wouldn't have got here today without her, so thank you, honey. Yeah, for sure. For sure. I should have been a better husband and got some flowers or something. I'm sorry. But last and certainly not least, I want to say thank you so much to today's speakers who, they've truly been such an inspiration, and I think everyone will attest to that and more. It's such a light of hope and promise for a beautiful and blessed tomorrow, and that's just so wonderful to look forward to. Shelley, is there anything else while we wait?
I'm spent.
No, thank
Yeah,
you.
okay.
You've been wonderful. She's been great. Another round of applause, please, for Shelley. You're amazing. Yeah, so we'll just wait for the deliberations. It's going to be very tough. I know, because I was jotting a bunch of notes down, and wow, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And then Julie, either Shelley or Julie will announce the
We'll figure it out.
seven
Well,
honorable mentions, right? Yeah, today. And then the top three.
Well, that's math, so we have to figure that out. 10 speakers, top 3, minus that, 7. Yes, that was always 7. So what we are going to do, though, is when the judges are ready, under the code of, I know you're not ready. I was just making a statement. We're going to call the 10 speakers up here, and again, you know what, let's do that now. They can come on up. And then if anybody wants to take pictures of them, they could stand in front. So of our 10 speakers, I'm going to just say their names again, so you remember who they are. I got to find. Number 1, Maya Nayer, who did Developing Countries' Lack of Education. Come on up. Number 2, Elizabeth Chen, Dangers of Personalized Algorithms. Number 3, Leo Sejara, Artificial Intelligence. It's just come up, I'm just going to make you stand on stage for a while, so I don't have to do this anymore. Number 4, Ellie Coleman, Mitigating the Harm of Fast Fashion. Number 5, Caitlin Gardner, Social Media's Negative Effects. Number 6, Kaya Calderhead, on debate. Number 7, Zoe Lefebvre, book banning. Number 8, Joshua Jordan, political party discord. Number 9, Peter McGinnis. The importance of LGBTQ plus education. And Sage Wilson, if you want to come on up too. Learning is always in style. All right. If family members want to take pictures, now would be a good time to come up and take some pictures for them. Get in there, Sage. All right. Then I'm just going to make you stand underneath the hot lights until they're ready. I can guess it is. That's all right. I'll do a dance or something. Not. Yeah, okay, yeah, no. But what we will do, I wonder if I can do this. I guess I can. Let's do this. Let's ask, tell us your name, what grade you're at, and what school you're at.
Sage Wilson. I'm a senior from Norton High School.
Okay, what are your plans after school?
I'm going to go to Stark State for 2 years to get an associate's in biology, and then probably move over to Kent since they've got some good botany and conservation programs there.
Awesomeness.
My name is Peter McGinnis. I'm a senior at Western Reserve Academy.
And where are you going to do after?
I'm going to go to Stanford University and study psychology.
Awesome.
I'm Joshua Jordan. I'm a sophomore at Stillwater Falls High School.
Okay. And what is your goals for after high school?
Afterwards, I'm going to go to whichever college will give me a big enough scholarship.
Then I'm probably going to double major in biology and computer science and go into a bioinformatics field.
Wow, that's fantastic. By the way, I never even took my SATs or ACTs. Okay.
I'm Zoe Lefebvre. I'm a freshman at Kenston High School.
Okay, and what is your plans after high school?
Well,
Let's get through high school. How's that?
yeah,
Okay.
we'll start with that.
All right, that sounds good.
My name's Kaya Calderhead. I am a sophomore at Westside Christian Academy, and I have a lot of interests, so I have no idea at the moment.
That's quite all right.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Gardner. I go to North Ridgeville High School.
Great.
Oh, I'm a sophomore.
Any thoughts about what you're going to do after school?
I'm not for sure at college, but I want to major in biology and hope to be a clinical geneticist.
That's pretty cool. Okay.
I'm Ellie Coleman. I'm a freshman. I go to Mentor High School.
Thoughts?
I really want to be a lawyer.
Oh, wow, that's pretty awesome. Okay.
Hi, I'm Leonel Sesaraj. I'm a senior at Aurora High School.
Okay, you know my question. Why?
My plans after graduation is to major in computer engineering with a concentration in artificial intelligence at Purdue University.
Wow, awesome. Good, pass it along. That's good.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Chen. I'm a sophomore at Berea Midpark High School, and I'm still sort of deciding, but I think probably business, and I'd like to go to graduate school too.
Nice.
Hi, I'm Maya Nair. I'm a junior at Solon High School. And for after high school, I have like, I don't know, maybe pre-law, business, or psychology. I really have no clue.
There's nothing wrong with that. That is awesome. Let's give them another big round of applause. All right. I see the judges are back. Let me do some work over here. Okay. All right. For honorable mentions, we're going to start with them first. Okay, and I got to do some thinking over here on this. The way that we're going to do that is we do have awards for them. They're just not here, so we will make sure that they do get them. And if I'm not mistaken, honorable mentions, where's Rich? Honorable mentions? $200 each. So the honorable mentions in no particular order will be Elizabeth Chen. Let's give her a round of applause. Dangers of personalized algorithms. Joshua Jordan, political party discord. Kaya Calderhead on debates. Zoe Lefebvre, book banning. Ellie Coleman, mitigating the harm of fast fashion. Caitlin Gardner, social media's negative effects. Whoops, wow, that was really rude. Sage Wilson, learning is always in style. And that should leave me with 3 up there, does it? Oh, my goodness gracious me. Look at that, that worked out. Whew. Now you're gonna perfect. That was hard work. Whew. All right, so let's start with number 3 with the topic of developing countries' lack of education. Maya Nair. Number 2, now I wish I had some music to play. With the topic of artificial intelligence, Leo Sejera. And our number 1 for this year's competition with the topic of the importance of LGBTQ plus education, Peter McGinnis. Let's give everybody a big round of applause. Thank you. The prizes, they'll be performing. You didn't know you had to do that, yes. Awesomeness. All right, good idea. Thank you. All right, again, thank you everybody for coming. One more round of applause, and enjoy the rest of your Saturday and your weekend and the eclipse. Nice job, guys.